This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden held a telephone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping that included what the White House described as candid and constructive discussions. The call, Tom Howell and Bill Gertz report, was billed as a follow-up to two face-to-face meetings between Biden and Xi, one in Bali in 2022 and a second on the sidelines of an Asia-Pacific summit in California this past November. Both sides have attempted to lower the temperature on the bilateral relationship after friction increased throughout much of 2023. Biden raised concerns about rising Chinese military activity near Taiwan, as well as the prospect of deeper cooperation in countering Chinese sales of chemicals used in producing fentanyl. The two also addressed proposed discussions on the risks posed by artificial intelligence and climate change, as well as the need to promote more people exchanges between their nations. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he'll strike back with legislation after a court in Texas said it won't agree to his demand to change how it assigns cases. At issue, Stephen Dinan reports, are federal courthouses where only one judge hears cases. Depending on how cases are assigned, plaintiffs can sometimes orchestrate their cases to file in a single-judge courtroom, where they're virtually guaranteed a judge likely to deliver a favorable outcome, a practice known as judge shopping. Schumer called it an odious practice and has urged courts to adopt guidelines written by a national panel of judges that would instill some randomness into the selection process. Members of Congress's squad who have championed Palestinians in their conflict with Israel are in danger of losing seats in their Democratic primaries. Kerry Pickett reports efforts to remove Representatives Cori Bush of Missouri and Jamal Bowman of New York have gained momentum with an influx of money from the American Israel Public Affairs Committee's political arm. AIPAC-connected organizations are expected to spend $100 million this election cycle, mainly on House races. That's 4 times the $26 million spent in 2022. Bush and Bowman were among the 9 House Democrats who voted against a resolution voicing support for Israel and condemning Hamas shortly after the October 7th attack on Israel. No Labels pledged to field candidates by the end of March, but hasn't been able to recruit either a presidential or vice presidential hopeful with the name recognition and qualifications to pull off a viable campaign. Susan Ferricchio reports time is running out for the centrist group in states that require candidates to be named before a party can petition for ballot access. Democrats say a No Labels candidate would draw votes away from President Biden, which would hit particularly hard in battleground states. Despite the setbacks and opposition, No Labels is far ahead of other independent presidential campaigns, including that of Robert Kennedy Jr. Even without announced candidates, No Labels said last week that it had secured spots on the ballot in 19 states, including several swing states. And finally, direct U.S.-North Korea diplomacy appears nearly non-existent as Kim Jong-un's regime rapidly deepens its military and political relationships with Russia. Some analysts, Ben Wolfgang reports, say the administration's diplomatic approach to North Korea is unimaginative. Biden has done little in public to counter a lengthy diplomatic freeze-out from North Korea in recent years, and conservative South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has also rejected the previous government's policy of trying to engage with the North. A growing number of foreign policy analysts and insiders argue that complete denuclearization on the Korean peninsula may now be more of an impediment to diplomacy than a realistic policy goal. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.